Pandemonium Reigns.
For the first time since 2004-2006, Tennessee gets back-to-back home wins against the University of Alabama. The third Saturday in October was absolutely electric. In 2022, we exercise those demons. In 2024, we start to turn the page on this rivalry and start to make it a rivalry again and prove to the rest of the college football world that we belong not only in this conversation, but in this same category and potential and possibility as the Alabamas, as the Ohio States, and as the Georgias. I went into this thing wrong. I was wrong, and I'm going to be here to admit it. I was wrong. Thank you so much for hanging out with us and taking your time to check out the show. This is Pandemonium Reigns. I'm Dan. We're going to talk about this whole thing. Here's where I was wrong. I was wrong on the score. I was wrong. I was wrong on the way in which it unfolded. I thought, here's what I said, that the offense is going to come together. It's going to happen. I just don't think it's going to happen Saturday. Don't think it's going to happen against Alabama. Well, I was wrong. Now, don't get me wrong. There was missed opportunities, but it's starting to click more. It's starting to come together more. I also said, here's where I was wrong, that we're just struggling to find an identity. We just don't really have an identity at the moment in time. I'm going to take my words back. I'm going to eat crow. I think we do have an identity. I want to talk about all these things. Let's kind of get into this piece by piece here. Let's talk offense, let's talk defense, and let's talk Nico. Before we get into this, though, a lot of Tennessee fans are talking about shouldn't have stormed the field, absolutely should have stormed the field. Here's kind of where I stand on that. I'm okay that it happened. I would prefer that we didn't. We did it in 2022. I mean, are we going to do this every time that Bama comes to town and we get this win? Obviously, if that score is a lot more lopsided in our favor, or if maybe it doesn't end the way that it does, with an interception by Brooks, who is basically a Tuscaloosa native. Who knows? Don't love it. Don't hate it. I don't know the point in tearing down the goalpost again. But at the end of the day, how many times have we gotten a win over Alabama? So let's celebrate. That's why I'm totally okay with it. Let's talk about offense again. Again, we go scoreless in the first half. However, we outscore them 24-10 in the second half. I want to consider the possibilities. What are the possibilities? Because it happened again. We move the ball on the first possession. Nico finds Brew. Dylan breaks a playoff to the left side of the formation, down inside their territory. Fumble. Turn it over. I feel like I just saw this movie. Did we not just do this against Florida? Did we not just do this? I wonder what the possibilities would be if we find points, even if it's just 3. Just drawing first blood, right? And we proved, the way that this game unfolded proved how valuable points were. All right. Now, we didn't know that at the time of the opening drive fumble, but in the end, this game proved how valuable points were and how hard they were going to be to come by. But imagine if you find the end zone. What does that do to your confidence as an offensive unit? What does that do for Nico as the quarterback running this whole thing? What does that do to your mojo? This game is all about confidence. Think of a sport like basketball and how important it is to start to get hot in college right before the tournament. Late February, March. That's when you want to start to get hot. The team that gets hot in November, December, it's almost irrelevant because it's hard to stay hot for that long. But this game is all about confidence and playing with mojo and playing with momentum. If you find the end zone there on the opening possession, how differently does this thing unfold? I think it sets a whole different narrative for the way that in which this thing unfolds. A couple more thoughts on the offense, by the way. I thought the offensive line played significantly better, especially in the second half. I thought it was good to see Dane Davis be a regular guy rotating in. I loved when we finally did punch it into the end zone. John Campbell, even though he's been one largely responsible for the holding penalties, flexing his muscles, being excited that we found the end zone there. Um, but I thought the offensive line played better. I'm going to get to Nico. I thought offensively, how do I say this? It's there. I mean, it's there. It's real close to these things are going to start connecting. These deep balls are going to start connecting, and when they do, we're going to be a whole different team. So I mentioned in the beginning. Forgive me if you feel all over the place. Imagine being in my mind right now. I mentioned in the beginning of this and in the previous episodes, we just don't have an identity. We don't have an offensive identity. Man, I was wrong. I'm just gonna say that Heupel knows what he's doing, and he knows how to coach and win a football game. We do have an identity. It just doesn't look like the identity of years past. We are gritty. We want to take you down into the mud and exchange blows. We want to go jab for jab, blow for blow with you, and we just believe that our blows are going to be harder and more effective and take a toll on you in the long run. This is how Heupel thinks. I have to believe that we're going to win games this year, and so far, it's working. Where it didn't work, obviously, on that dark night in Fayetteville, Arkansas. But we're gritty. We're not the identity of old. We're not. We're not the hey. We're gonna score. We're gonna light up the scoreboard, and we're gonna make you catch up. I think part of it is we're just not gelling offensively yet, and maybe that's why we don't carry that identity. Who knows? But I'm starting to really love this identity of let's get gritty, let's get dirty, let's roll up the sleeves, and let's exchange blows because you're going to hit us in the mouth, but we think we can hit you in the mouth harder. All right. A couple numbers for you, courtesy of ESPN for flashing this on the screen for us. Right in the middle of our offensive drives, they put this on the screen for us. So here's to the identity what I'm saying. In 2021, we were snapping the ball every 25.7 seconds. That was good for first in the nation, fastest in the nation. In 2022, we were snapping the ball every 27.2 seconds, good for best in the nation. In 2023, we were snapping the ball every 25.8 seconds, good for first in the nation. Now here in 2024, we're snapping it every 30.8 seconds. Good for seventh in the nation. I think that statistic brings clarity to who we are, what we're about, the style of play that we want to run, and our identity. And again, I'm just going to come back and say, listen, Heupel knows. He knows what he's doing. He knows how these games have to be won. And why am I going to trust him so wholeheartedly? Because in 4 games, he's 2-2 against Bama. In 4 games, he's 2-2 against Florida. Now, he hasn't beaten Georgia yet, but I believe it's coming. I don't know that it's going to be 2024, but at this rate, I don't think it's going to be long. It's not going to be long, all right? And speaking of, as you look at the rest of the schedule, as you talk about Georgia, staring at 10-2, staring at it. All right, you'd have told me after Arkansas 10-2, I told you you've lost your mind that this is an 8-4 football team. I was wrong. I was wrong. Real quick before we move on from the offense, if you have any doubt that Nico is the quarterback, I don't know what to tell you at this point. It's clearly Nico. He clearly has an it factor about him. And I can tell you it ain't Gaston Moore. Gaston Moore, I forget who tweeted this, went straight Leroy Jenkins. And if you know that reference, you know what I'm talking about. But he just yeeted this thing and just hoped for the best. And as a friend of mine said, hey, if I'm Gaston Moore and this is my one chance, my one opportunity, I'm slinging it deep. As you go back and you look at the replay, you will see Ethan Davis coming across the field who is going to be open. Matt Moore's not looking at that. He's like, how far can I yeet this thing? And it costs us. Okay. So a lot of things, a lot of the good things offensively. I believe it's starting again. I believe it's starting to click and mesh together. These deep balls. I think when it starts coming together, you're going to most commonly see Nico and Brazil because that's the one Nico's looking for. That's the one Nico's looking for. I love the play call in that empty set where we found Thornton for 50, 55, something like that. Nico knew where he was going before that ball was snapped. I don't know if it was a design rollout, but that's what he did. Design or not, it's what he did. He starts running before he has the ball in his hands, and that is an elite throw. That is an elite throw. Okay, you know we're on the Nico topic, so let's just kind of stay there as we move forward. Again, I've mentioned that this Nico offense it's coming together, man. It really is. It's coming together, and I do think it's just a matter of time before it really starts to gel together. And we're going to be absolutely lethal, a force to be reckoned with. Here's to hoping that it comes together by the Georgia game. All right. So on the topic of Nico, man, he made some elite plays. That throw to Thornton being one of them. Consider the scramble that he made. Oh gosh, I don't know when this was, but he puts a head fake on one of those defenders and gets that thing down inside. I believe the Bama 15, which later sets up the Samson score. Which I'm not going to talk about Samson much because everybody knows the dog that he is, leading the conference in rushing touchdowns, 838 yards, 17 touchdowns. Give the man the ball. I would like to see other ways in getting him the ball. I complained in the past about inside zones. We saw some stretches Saturday. We saw a couple counters. Saw different couple different design runs. But I would like to see some different things out of the backfield just because he's got those capabilities. He made some elite plays, Nico did. He found, Brazil for that touchdown, and props to him for continuing to pursue it and to go after it and believe that it's there and it finally connects someone. And I mean, that throw is absolutely clutch considering that you have not connected on those thus far. You find him in the end zone. Again, this is why I come back to say that Nico has just got an it factor about him. He did make some bad plays. He did have a really, really bad pick, a ball that he never should have even attempted to throw. That ball was going to be picked off whether he wasn't hit while throwing anyway. It was double covered. Don't throw that ball. But I believe he's going to get better. I believe he's going to get better, and I think as this offense continues to get better, that it's going to reflect through the Nico statistics and just what the intangibles that you see on the field with Nico. Another offensive stat here regarding our offense and Bama, which is crazy because going into this, I said you're gonna have to contain Jalen Milroe. You're not going to. You can't let him get going on the ground. You're going to see the QB sweeps, and you're going to see him run. His long was 11 yards, and he was held to. Oh gosh, this is bad podcasting. 42 yards on 12 carries. But I'm talking about the offense. Why am I talking about Jalen Milroe? Because he led them in rushing, and they totaled 75 yards, and we totaled 220. 220. We are committed to running the ball. Committed to it. It's taken us a little while for it to get going, even though we had that opening one there in the first possession. But is what it is. Let's talk defense for a moment. Another opponent is held to under 20 points. What? I can't. I wanted to do this before I hopped on here, but I totally forgot. I would love to know if that 2021 Georgia defense did this. Was there a point in time where they allowed more than 20, maybe even up to this point to the season or in the season altogether? But that stat is just outstanding, especially considering today's version of college football. Let's talk about that fourth down. That fourth down that they did not get. They didn't get that. That fourth down where those two Bama receivers act like they're shooting hoops once the ball is snapped. That's ridiculous. By the way, you talk about a team that's struggling, and that's the Sabanless Alabama. Saban's teams didn't beat themselves, and they did in a couple of ways. Anyway, they didn't get it. The reason that I mention this is because it's almost like it had no mental impact on our defense. Continued just to play lights out, almost as if we got pissed off. Going into this game, I said that you're going to have to find yards on defense and special teams. You're going to have to do it. And I believe that we did. Most notably would be the Jermod McCoy interception. Milroe tries to find Ryan Williams, who is an absolute stud, by the way, on a fade. That ball is thrown too short. It's picked off by McCoy. Returned down to the Bama 45-yard line. We don't walk away with points, but we do flip the field. We lived in the backfield. 3 sacks, 9 tackles for loss. James Pierce starting to reflect on the stat sheet a little bit. I thought he had he impacted this game so much, and his impact is not justified by what you see on the stat sheet. I thought Dominic Bailey had a really nice game, and his stats did reflect on the stat sheet. He had 4 total sacks, 2 solo. He had a sack and a TFL and a half. And consider how well this defense played without Keenan Peely. We saw a lot of Jalen Smith. Jalen Smith was actually in on the play, the final play of the game, where Milroe throws the interception to Will Brooks, which tells me Tim Banks and company have some trust in this guy. That's real exciting. But this is T. Lander and Arian Carter's position room right now, and they're doing an exceptional job with it as sophomores. All right. So I said you needed to find yards on special teams and defense, and we did that. What else did I say going into this? I said no explosive plays. And if you do allow an explosive play, you need to match it. And I felt like that pretty much happened for the most part. I said you need to correct your errors. Now I'm just speaking in whole as a team and not just as a defensive unit. You need to correct your errors. Penalties were better. I mean, you didn't have a holding call every time you turned around. But for what it's worth, our penalty numbers weren't good. It wasn't good, but praise God that Alabama was just as bad in that regard. Finally, I said going into this, you need to keep them balanced defensively. Here we go. I'm back to the offense. Told you my brain was scattered. You need to keep them balanced defensively. You can't allow them just to put numbers into the box. We did it. We did just enough offensively, I believe, to keep them off balance. And some of that was just simply due to the shots that we took that we didn't even connect on. All right. So at the end of all this thing, let me make sure I've covered all my notes here. Yeah. So when I talked about the Florida game going into the Bama, I said, if you'd have told me that we were only going to score 23 points and beat Florida, I'd have told you you're insane. Here we are, scoring 24 points, beating Bama. If you told me we don't know what Bama's going to score, but we're scoring 24, I told you this needs to be higher 20s, possibly eclipsing 30, 31, probably saying this is a loss. But we're gritty. Back to the identity. Our defense is nasty. They're just winning games for us, and we need to continue to stay healthy at this. I want to say that, we are so gritty that it is covering up the times that we're just shooting ourselves in the foot. And take some of these mistakes out of this game for us, and And I'm not even talking about connecting on the deep balls. I'm just talking about some of the penalties and whatnot. Take some of those things back. I mean, we had two pre-snap, I think two pre-snap alignment penalties, illegal formation. I mean, there was a Nico connects on a inside hitch route in the seam there. I want to say to Thornton for a first down. I really don't remember, but it's negated because we've got too many men on the line of scrimmage. So, just absolute silly. Got to stop shooting ourselves in the foot. All right. So anyway, here's how I want to end. I want to ask this question. What was the difference in this thing? What was the difference? What allowed us to walk away with the win? Was it the penalties? I don't think so, because it was a wash. When I say penalties, I mean Alabama's penalties. No, it can't be, because we had near just as many and just as costly. And I'll say this, talking about Bama real quick. Saban's teams, again, they didn't beat themselves. DeBoer's got some tightening up. I think that he's going to have to do. I get it that he's going to operate it differently than Saban, but some of the stuff that they're doing, like shooting hoops on that fourth down, like if that's my team, I'm pissed. Like, what are we doing here? What was the difference? Was it penalties? No, I don't think so. Was it the explosive play? Maybe there might be an argument for that, but I would say we kind of exchanged on those. They were able to find. They didn't connect on the touchdown to Ryan Williams on the fade. We picked it off, but they found it later to him when Ricky Gibson was on him. They didn't have many explosive plays, but we traded some punches there. I do believe that we landed more punches. Obviously, here's where I think what it came down to. Neyland is one. What I would have given to been in that environment. Michael and I got to be there in 2022 with a good friend of ours who's a Bammer, and what an environment! What an environment! Now this one was right there next to it, but the only reason I think that 22 different environment was just slightly different is just because the amount of explosive plays, the times and the number of times in which teams found the end zone, less sloppy play, I mean, 52-49, I mean, that's more than 100 points, right? Not the case here. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure we hit the under on this game. So I think Neyland was a factor. I mean, they made it difficult from the very first possession, and then they made it difficult all the way to the last possession where Milroe throws a pick. I think Milroe was another difference in this. I think Milroe is a stud. I think he's an absolute stud. I think Neyland played a part in this. I think our defense just wasn't going to have it. Wasn't going to have it. Was going to make him earn every yard, and they did. He didn't have a good night. He didn't have a lot of help. Call it for what it is. Didn't have a lot of help. But I think your differences are Neyland, the Neyland factor, Milroe, and this identity that we're playing with. We're just gritty. There's not a lot that's getting to us. It's taking a lot to phase us. We're not easily rattled. We got a backbone. We have a spine. We love the fight, I believe. Now, obviously, fans would love to have less of a fight and run up the scoreboard and get out of there and make them play catch up. It's not what's happening, though. So a lot of things there, and man, it just, for so many years, we found ways to lose this game, but we're finding ways to win them. And Tennessee fans, we need to enjoy this. We need to celebrate this. I don't know about you, but I smoked my cigar. I'm not a regular cigar guy, but smoked it. Sure did. At a fellow friend's house who is a Bammer. Lit it up for me and everything. Props to that, man. Hey, that's all I got for today. We'll be back later in this week. Hopefully, Michael will be dropping his comments and thoughts on this third Saturday in October, 24-17 Tennessee win over the Tide. Man, I could just say that over and over and over again. Tennessee reignites their playoff chances. Not that it was lost, Don't think it was lost, but man, you can go to Georgia and lose now. I'm not saying that's going to happen, that I want it to happen, but you can go to Georgia and lose now as long as you take care of business on the rest of your schedule and still be a playoff team. You're staring at 10-2. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, talking about this game, reliving the celebration of beating Alabama. My God, it feels good. My gosh, it feels good. And I would just like to end by saying this. For the Tennessee fans who go back and forth on who the rivalry is, whether it's Florida or Tennessee,
Pandemonium
Field
Reigns.
Rush told us a ton. It told us a ton. I hate Florida, but my gosh, I hate Alabama. Make sure you hit like on this video. Make sure you hit subscribe to the channel. I love you guys. Have a wonderful week. God bless. Go Vols.
Pandemonium Reigns.